All right, we're back. Okay. Over the weekend, CBS, which stands for Communist Broadcasting System, did an expose on 60 Minutes about Benghazi. And I'm going to encourage you to watch the full episode because I want you to view it as an exercise in your critical thinking skills. One, probably the majority of my listenership, you included, are not generally predisposed to watching CBS News or NBC and so forth. Because, most of the time it's a lot of drivel and the occasional article is tossed in there, interleaved with the normal news stories that really are more government propaganda than actual journalistic a journalistic presentation. And what I think most surprises me is that a lot of folks are, Benghazi's been out of their mind for months. But those of us who are here on the side of constitutional conservatism and patriotic conservatism, we've been following it all along. I think that the timing of this issue with CBS is interesting because technically Benghazi is old news, right? Obamacare is what's right now in front of your face. I mean, I get the fact that Obamacare is a crisis while it's happening, but I find it informative that 60 Minutes would wait the length of time that it's waited on Benghazi to actually do an expose. Now, they do point out some obvious facts, that the White House lied to us, that they knew that this was somewhat of a cover-up. But they're actually afraid, I believe, to expose the entire truth. And I'm not sure whether it's, based on the fact that that they were really trying to, misdirect the public away from and their attention away from the issue of Obamacare, or whether they're setting up Hillary Clinton to run in 2016. I can't read their mind. But I can tell you that their activities and their actions are suspect because they really didn't do a full expose on this. I mean, the media in the nation as a general whole has been in the tank for this administration all along, long before he actually became president. They were the ones who pushed the direction to, push the nation into the direction of the Obama machine. The truth is that Benghazi was a tragedy that should have been dealt with by the media all along. The Ministry of Propaganda, which is exactly what this is, they tried to, in this episode, I noticed a couple of things. That they tried to, they first of all, they didn't really expose what was really going on in the White House during that period of time. We still, to this day, don't know what happened during the time that Benghazi, the president was alerted to Benghazi and what he did after that. We still don't know. So this was not much of an expose, if you will. I mean, they just kind of reiterated what a lot of us have known all along. I'm glad that, some portion of America that watches 60 Minutes, and I don't know how big an audience that is, but that they're maybe awakened to the fact that Benghazi is still an issue or that it even exists. But they didn't answer any of the real questions. Why did Susan Rice and Hillary and Obama proclaim the video to be the motivating factor for it? Why didn't we send assistance when it was available within a matter of hours. Who gave the stand-down orders? I mean, as exposés go, this wasn't an expose. It was a reiteration of the facts that have been exposed already by others. They didn't talk at all about the issue of weaponry. I know that they will attempt to, make this something that is a claim that the Ministry of Propaganda is fair and balanced, if you will. But the truth is, it's really not going to happen that way. For the millions who watch 60 Minutes and CBS, to them it may have been news. But to the rest of us, this was barely scraping the surface of the Benghazi tragedy, the treason, the betrayal that we know it to have been. But I'd like you to utilize it as an opportunity to expand and exercise your critical thinking skills. So I'm going to really encourage you to watch it. It's only about a 15 or 20-minute segment. There's a link on our website for it. You can find it by going to americasvoicenow.org. You can find it by going to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And then you can also find it in the segment on this particular YouTube video. I put it into the comment section. Do yourself a favor. Watch it and understand what they're really telling you here, because I think you're going to find, when you've had an opportunity to look at all of the facts and all of the information, I think you're going to find that if you're using critical thinking skills, you're going to recognize when you're being misdirected. And that's what I want you to learn from this. Not, whether or not they did a good job or a bad job. What I want you to do is I want you to recognize, and I want the alarm bells to go off in the back of your head when you see where you're being rope-a-doped, where you see where you are being fed fodder instead of meat. True journalists would expose everything about this, not just kind of dally around the surface and ripple a little wave here and there. And with all due respect, 60 Minutes certainly has the resources, the investigative reporter resources, access to the White House. So how is it that they did an expose that didn't really expose anything? Think about that as you're watching it. Take some notes. This is an exercise in critical thinking. It's more that than it is the issue of reevaluating Benghazi. I think that they could have taken this 15 minutes if they really were intent on educating America. And they could have, if not answered the questions, at least left the audience with the hunger and the thirst to go out and do the investigative look themselves at what everyone else has come up with. But the truth of the matter is, there is a ton of information out there about Benghazi and its motivations and the real underlying dirt of what happened that these guys don't even really discuss. So do yourself a favor and educate yourself. Part of what we do here is to give you the information that enables you to evaluate what you're seeing in the news in a new light. We want you to read between the lines, because an uninformed public is really a failed republic. Our founders told us very, very clearly that if we did not have an understanding of all of the things that were politically happening around us, that we could not possibly be we the people in control. And yet, every motivation out there I shouldn't say motivation, every aspect of the media seems to be, at least the mainstream media, we're talking about the big networks now. There's lots of alternative media out there, and you really need to be evaluating it, because what you're hearing from, CNN and ABC, CBS, NBC, MSN, MSN, LSD, and Fox News even, is really only used as a tool to, in Cass Sunstein's words, nudge you one way or the other. Cass Sunstein, with his nudge policy, uses the media as a methodology to nudge the herd in one direction or another. And in light of that, I want you to look at this in the light of that, right? That knowledge that you now have, that you'll never watch a news story the same way again if you begin to start exercising and strengthening your critical thinking skills. Look at it this way. Your mind is no different than any other muscle in your body. And you only have your mind. Everything else is nonsense. You have your mind, and that is the only tool that you have, and the only weapon, frankly, that you have to fight back against what we're being fed. But you have to exercise it, and you have to build that muscle up. And with time, like every other thing that you do, when I taught firearms training, and also worked with firearms for a very significant portion of my life. And when you practice and you work at it and you train, and you train to draw that pistol and punch out with it, right? That becomes almost second nature, and it's muscle memory is what they call that. When you are a carpenter and you swing a hammer, that becomes muscle memory. You know exactly how to hit that nail, and your mind doesn't really need to think, should I swing the hammer a little to the east or west or north or south? You understand what's required of you. When you reach into your bag and you grab a nail or you grab a screw and you swing that drill up and boom, you hit that nail right away because you've done it so many times it becomes muscle memory. When you're a mechanic, or whether you are working at your office, the skills that you do every day, you don't recognize it, but they are routine for you because you've built the memory in the muscle, whether that's mental or physical. It makes no difference. Both operate and cooperate together collectively. If you do physical work for a living, you don't think twice about saying, let me grab this tape measure and boom, slap it up against that board, pull it out, and you say, I know exactly where to mark this. A guy who's never done that before is like, well, geez, let's see, do I want to mark this to... But for you, it's common. You do it every day. You don't have to think twice about it. You look at that ruler and you know the difference between a 1/4 inch and a 1/16. When you are a guy working in an office place, you sit there and you understand instinctively what to do when a report comes in, and you know how to handle it. When you are in business and your job is to go out there and communicate and deal with customers, and you know exactly, instinctively, what to say to a customer when they put up an objection and they say, well, I can't afford this, or I can't buy your product because, and you know exactly what to do. It's muscle memory. This critical thinking skill and understanding how the information that is presented to you is misleading you is just another skill. And you can learn it like any other skill you know. And it doesn't take an enormous amount of time. What it takes is for you to question things instead of just blindly absorbing them. Let them bounce off of you instead of flow through you. Think about it before you make a decision. And then ask yourself the question. And I'm telling you, I promise you that after a relatively brief period of exercise, you will find that this is a skill which benefits you. One, you're going to start recognizing that you're using it automatically. And secondarily, you're going to recognize the value of it because you're going to see something that occurs and you're going to hear a news story that occurs and you're going to say, boy, it just came out like, so obvious what they're trying to say here. And then you're going to actually be pleasantly surprised that you immediately recognized it when before you would have never even known. Surprise yourself. Start to exercise and practice. Because it is your job to think critically. There is no substitute for that and still be a functioning part of our republic. We have been blinded by literally 100 years of dampening down of your ability to think for yourself. Your schools teach it, and they've always taught it. Why do you think the federal government wants to be in control of education? Come on. Think about that. Other than to unify the education principle that everyone should always do exactly as they're told, and we'll tell you how to think. When we want your opinion, we'll tell you what it is. I mean, that's really ultimately what it comes down to. The way in which you view those things that are around you define how you should respond. And if you're not getting if the alarm bells don't go off when they start piling on the BS, the CS, and the HS, then you're numb, and you're susceptible, and you're malleable. You're trainable. I don't know about you, but I never want to be trainable. I'm no Pavlovian dog to be told what to do. And you shouldn't be either. We're going to touch on our next topic, taxation by the mile, in just a moment. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. Please ride with us this morning. We've got a great show. This taxation by the mile thing is going to be something that I think you're going to find disturbing. There's 2 articles out there about it that I'm going to reference. One is on the LA Times and the other is on InfoWars. Both of them are addressing the fact that these new initiatives by government are out there to put a black box in your car and utilize it as a source of revenue. That's their excuse. What they're really doing with it is tracking your rear end everywhere you go. It's all a control measure, folks. Wake up to the reality of this. We're living in a police state. We are. Wake up and see it. You're listening to America's Voice Now. We'll be back in just a moment. Stick with us.